Hey guys, tonight I want to tell you a story, but not just any story. This is the story of a child born in the deserts of Arabia, a child who faced loss, love, and incredible purpose before the world even knew his name. This is the story of the early years of a man who would go on to change history, not with wealth or power, but with truth and mercy. So grab a warm drink, get comfortable, and join me as we journey through the childhood of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. Let's begin. The sun scorched the ancient valleys of Mecca as it had for centuries. Traders moved through the dusty streets, their caravans filled with spices and silk, unaware that in the heart of their city, in the womb of a noble yet grieving woman, the world was preparing to receive its greatest mercy. The Kaaba stood in solemn silence, surrounded by idols, yet yearning for truth. The people had long abandoned the path of Ibrahim, yet the heavens whispered of a final messenger to come. Not from the palaces of Persia, nor the temples of Rome, but from among the desert dwellers, from the tribe of Quraysh, from the descendants of Ismail. His name would be Muhammad, the praised one, and though his hands would one day carry the final revelation, his story began in the embrace of hardship. The skies were not silent. Prophets before him had delivered messages that echoed through the scriptures, and now the time was near. The final seal was about to be sent, not in grandeur, but in quiet poverty. Mecca would bear witness, and the world would never be the same. The year was 570 CE, a year Mecca would never forget. It came to be known as the Year of the Elephant. Abraha, the Christian governor of Yemen, built a great cathedral in Sana'a to rival the Kaaba, hoping to divert pilgrims. When his ambitions failed, he turned to destruction. He led an army accompanied by a massive elephant toward the sacred sanctuary. Panic gripped the Quraysh, but Abdul Muttalib, the dignified chief and custodian of the Kaaba, remained calm. "This house has a lord who will protect it," he said with firm conviction in his voice. The city had never faced such a threat, and the people fled to the surrounding hills, watching with fear and prayer. As the army drew near, flocks of birds emerged from the sky, each carrying stones in their beaks and claws. They moved in waves, striking the invaders with divine precision. Abraha's army, mighty and proud, lay shattered in the sand. Their march ended not by men, but by birds. That same year, in a modest home in Mecca, a boy was born to a young widow, Amina bint Wahb. Her husband, Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib, had died on a trading journey to Yathrib before he could meet his son. Amina named the child Muhammad, a name almost unknown in Arabia. She said, "I named him so he may be praised in the heavens and the earth." She would later recall that the moment he was born, a light shone from her that illuminated the castles of Syria. Midwives present at the birth spoke of serenity and calm. Birds gathered on the roof. The world had shifted. Muhammad was now under the guardianship of his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, a noble leader with regal bearing. He held the infant with deep reverence. Some say he sensed the greatness to come. The child rarely cried and often gazed into the sky as if drawn by a higher calling. The city was no place for a growing child. As was the custom, the Quraysh would send their newborns to be raised in the desert. The Bedouin air was believed to build strength, purity of speech and health. Among the women who came seeking nursing children was Halima Sa'diyah from the tribe of Banu Sa'd. Poor and struggling, no one had entrusted her with a child, but when she saw the orphan Muhammad, her heart was moved. She saw light in his eyes. The moment she took him, her fortunes changed. Her camel, previously weak, now galloped ahead. Her breasts overflowed with milk. Her tribe, once skeptical, marveled. "This boy is a blessing," they said. The goats returned full. The land seemed greener. It was a miracle unfolding before their eyes. The deserts of Arabia are vast, harsh, and quiet, perfect for reflection. Muhammad grew in the arms of Halima and her husband Harith. As a child he was serene, never troublesome. Animals gravitated toward him. His foster siblings played with him, but they sensed something different in him. He never fought, he never lied, he always shared. He would wander into the hills and sit alone, watching the birds soar and the sand shift. Halima would call him and find him deep in thought, eyes tracing the horizon. One day something extraordinary happened. While playing behind the tents, Halima's son came running. Two men in white robes came and laid him down. They opened his chest. Halima found Muhammad conscious, but his face was pale. When asked, he described the men opening his chest and washing his heart with pure water, removing a black speck. Years later, he would recount that angels had come and cleansed his heart. She looked at him and wept. She feared what the world would do to him. The unseen had touched him. The world she feared would not understand. Halima, afraid for his safety, returned him to his mother, Amina, in Mecca. Muhammad lived with his mother Amina for a few short months. She doted on him, telling him about his noble father, his ancestors, and the lineage of Quraysh. She taught him about his roots, the prophets before him, and the honor of his family. He listened quietly, absorbing everything. When he turned 6, she decided to take him to Yathrib to visit his father's grave and show him his extended family. It was a journey of memory and bonding. The journey was long but meaningful. In Yathrib, young Muhammad met uncles, cousins, and a new environment of palm groves and gardens. He played with children and walked among tombstones, holding his mother's hand. But on the return trip, Amina grew ill. In the village of Abwa, she succumbed to fever. Muhammad held her hand as her breath slowed. He was now alone. A slave woman named Barakah Ayman brought him back to Makkah. Her heart broke for the quiet child whose eyes held more than tears. They held the ache of early pain. Back in Makkah, the orphan was welcomed into the home of Abdul Muttalib. The aged leader, though grieved, took great care of the boy. He let him sit beside him during meetings of the Quraysh. When others objected, he said, "This child is special, leave him be." Abdul Muttalib took Muhammad to the Kaaba daily. He told him stories of his ancestors. He whispered to him about the prayers of Ibrahim and Ismail. The boy would listen, his gaze fixed on the sacred house. But only 2 years later, death came again. Abdul Muttalib passed away when Muhammad was 8. With each loss, the boy became more introspective, less expressive, more thoughtful. He did not play idly nor speak without purpose, yet he never rebelled. He served, he helped, he learned. Now under the care of his uncle Abu Talib, Muhammad entered a humble household. Abu Talib, though poor, was kind and honorable. He treated Muhammad as one of his own. Muhammad began to assist in the family's modest trade. He walked with his uncle through Makkah's markets, observing the cruelty, the lies, and the idol worship. He saw poverty, arrogance, injustice, and yet he remained pure. At age 12, he joined Abu Talib on a caravan journey to Syria. It was on this journey they met a monk named Bahira. The monk, upon seeing Muhammad, watched as a cloud followed him, shading him. Bahira examined him and saw signs in his back, the seal of prophethood. He warned Abu Talib, "Take him back. He is the last prophet. If others find out, they may harm him." Muhammad was returned to Makkah, unaware of the full weight of who he was, but something stirred in him. He began to reflect more, to spend more time in silence. As he grew, Muhammad took up shepherding. He led sheep across rocky hills, alone with nature, learning patience and attentiveness. Many prophets had been shepherds. There is wisdom in solitude. He avoided the vices of his people. While others worshipped idols, he did not. While others drank wine, he abstained. His character became known throughout Makkah. People called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy. He was the one you gave your gold to when you traveled, the one whose word never faltered. He never shouted, never cheated, and never harmed the weak. When he spoke, people listened. Even elders respected him. He was poor yet noble, quiet yet dignified, and in his silence the heavens watched. One day, a foreign merchant was cheated in the Makkah marketplace. No one came to his defense. He cried out, but the chiefs ignored him. Outraged by the injustice, some noblemen gathered and formed a pact, the Hilf al-Fadul. They swore to protect the weak and uphold justice. Muhammad joined them. He would later say, "I witnessed a pact in the house of Abdullah ibn Judan. If I were called to it today, I would answer it." Justice mattered to him even before revelation. It was not politics for him, it was principle. By now in his early 20s, Muhammad had become a respected figure. He managed trades, assisted the poor, and never compromised his values. Makkah was rich but corrupt. The poor were exploited. The idols had replaced God. Yet in that environment, Muhammad's soul remained clear. People whispered that he was unlike any other. He walked alone at night. He climbed the mountains in reflection. He was searching for something greater, and the world was waiting. By 25, Muhammad would marry Khadija, a noblewoman who had seen his honesty and hired him to manage her trade. But before he was a husband, a merchant, or a prophet, he was a boy who walked through grief after grief and still offered a smile to others. A boy who grew not through comfort, but through resilience. A boy who was protected not by riches, but by the unseen. This was the childhood of Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mercy to the worlds, and his story had just begun.